It is Sarfaraz Khan's birthday today. The young man is turning 28, and you would be expecting that maybe his name would be trending on social media for all the right reasons. His name is trending, but unfortunately because of all the wrong reasons. And none of it is this young cricketer's fault, a young talented cricketer's fault, I must add on that. So what's the reason behind it? It's a tweet that comes from a politician, Dr. Shama Mohamed. She is a spokesperson of the Congress party, and she put a social media post out which read, "Is Sarfaraz Khan not selected?" She's of course talking about the India A squad that will be playing the red ball games versus a South African team that will be visiting the Indian shores. So she's saying, is Sarfaraz Khan not selected because of his surname? Just asking. We know where Gautam Gambhir stands on that matter. Now, this tweet has many things that are wrong here. We'll try and break it down. However, it also raises a very pertinent point, and that's exactly what we are going to be doing in this particular video. But before I dwell any further, let me give you some sort of context. Sarfaraz Khan right now is not part of the Indian Test team, but the bigger controversy has come that someone who was part of the test team was very conveniently pushed out of that, and then he was playing for India A, which is basically the second rung, but now he's been removed from there as well despite scoring a lot of runs. Why is it happening, and is there really a communal angle as Ms. Mohamed here wants to suggest? Okay, we'll try and break this down. Firstly, she says we all know Gautam Gambhir and where he stands on that. Let me tell you, having covered cricket for very long, there is nothing to suggest that Gautam Gambhir, is discriminating between his players based on religion. That's the first thing that we can establish. Yes, there could be likes, there could be dislikes, there could be players that he's backing, there could be players that he's not backing. I have even covered cricket when he was playing. He had players from all religions playing with him. If you speak to any of those players, they'll tell you straight up that there has been never any sort of a communal angle that may have come with Gautam Gambhir, the player, or now as a coach. So that's the first thing where she's wrong on. Secondly, even if she was to be pointing fingers at someone like Gautam Gambhir, maybe we also need to educate people who do not follow the process of how team selection happens. Gautam Gambhir alone cannot decide. Let's say he doesn't like X player, Y player, whatever be the reason, or doesn't believe in their talent. The selection process is a very in-depth one. Here we are talking about an India A selection where the national coach doesn't even play a role. First things first. So in the India A team selection, the contribution of Gautam Gambhir would have been a big zero. But now if I was to extend it to the Indian Test team, and let's say, there are certain reasons where Gautam may want to keep Sarfaraz out. Again, those are unsubstantiated, but let's take that as a case in point. He alone can't take a decision because there will be a selector. In fact, there are going to be 5 selectors. Chairman of selectors represented here in Ajit Agarkar, who has a voice. The remaining 4 selectors also have a voice. The captain of the Indian Test team, Shubman Gill, will also have a major voice. So just to let you know, when there is a selection meeting, you have to listen to everyone. No single person can prevail unless the rest of them are also convinced in the decision or in the selection that he's making. So just to point finger at one individual, whoever that individual might be, is factually wrong. So that's the first thing that's wrong. Now, what has really added fuel to the fire, this whole communal religion angle that is coming to it, is the fact that Mohamed Shami recently spoke to the media, and he said that, listen, I am fit, whereas the chairman of selectors a few days ago, Ajit Agarkar, said that, listen, we don't know about his fitness, he's not bowling enough. So there is a bit of disagreement there in terms of what Shami is saying and what the selectors are saying in terms of his fitness. That is why Shami also finds himself out of all formats at the moment. Is Shami a talented bowler? Bang on, he is. Is there an issue with his fitness? He doesn't think so, but the selectors do. But to now take 2 players that come from one background or one religion and then say there is some sort of bias there in Indian cricket, well, that myth also needs to be shattered. Why do I say that? There are 2 other cricketers that have raised many eyebrows with their non-selection. Recently, India played the Asia Cup where someone like a Shreyas Iyer was not part of the team. The media raised a lot of questions, but there was no communal angle that one saw there. Let's take a look at Yashasvi Jaiswal, one of the most talented players that we have now, plays only one format. Till a short while ago, he was part of all formats in Indian cricket. Now finds himself out of 2 formats despite the fact that he's been scoring a lot of runs. I can think of many players, that have been unfortunately left out. Recently we had Karun Nair. Many might say that him, being dropped from the Indian Test team after just 4 Test matches is also unfortunate. So I can think of many players that come from various different backgrounds that have been unlucky or have been unfortunate that they've been out of the team. To bring in a religious angle in cricket, I think is unfair. Again, I speak from experience. I've covered, Indian cricket for more than 2 decades. There are a lot of issues in Indian cricket. There are a lot of loopholes there. There are many things that we've pointed fingers at. But let me tell you, having seen selection, camaraderie, teams functioning from very close quarters, I've never found an iota of any religious bias that may have existed in Indian cricket for the last 2.5 decades. At least that I can tell you, giving you a bird's eye view. Okay, what happens from here on? Now, this is something, when we start taking opinions very seriously, you also have to see where the opinion is coming from. This whole thing started by a tweet, and who was the person who tweeted? She is a politician. Now, I'm not the one to say that, listen, you're in politics, don't talk about cricket, or you don't know anything about films, don't talk about films. I never say that. Why? Because all of us have the right to opinion. All of us can mention what we feel like about public figures, whether they are in the film industry, whether they are politicians. I've never stood for an election, but I have an opinion about politics. I may have an opinion about films as well. I've never acted in a film or made a film, so I have no issues with that. I think everyone is entitled to an opinion, but the ill-informed opinion is the issue. And when it comes from a politician, they're always looking for a political angle, and this is what why I'm saying take her opinion with a bag full of salt, because she has a habit of shooting from the hip. This was a tweet she put out earlier in the year where she wrote about Rohit Sharma, saying he's fat for being a sports person, he needs to lose weight, and of course the most unimpressive captain. She got panned for this as well, because all of it was factually incorrect, and many also thought was insensitive and rather rude. She later in fact deleted the tweet. So she's no stranger to controversies, and especially controversies in cricket, and most of the times the opinion is ill-informed and far from the truth. That's why I say always look at the background before you take anyone's opinion seriously. However, in all of this, she has pointed to a very pertinent point, and there I agree, and this is something that we've raised here on the platform as well. Why is Sarfaraz Khan not part of the Indian setup right now? Whether it is at the top level, that is Test cricket, or whether it is even at the next level, that is the India A level. And these numbers tell you a story, and this is where one, if I was Sarfaraz, I would be aggrieved. If I was a fan of cricket, I would be aggrieved. Had Dr. Shama Mohamed restricted herself to a cricketing point or a cricketing debate, I think she would have made a valid point, and that's why we're trying to dig deeper, giving you all sides of the story. So this is the Test record in the limited matches that Sarfaraz has played. He's played 11 innings, averages 37. Now, who is the current number 3 for India is Sai Sudarshan. He's played 9 innings, averages 30, much less than Sarfaraz, but he's been given a longer row. He's continuing to play Test cricket, whereas Sarfaraz was dropped despite having a better average than a Sudarshan, who's right now an essential part of the Indian team. Again, age is also not an issue. Karun Nair was dropped because many were saying that he's aging. Sudarshan is young. Sarfaraz is young. Why this issue here? Padikkal, who's the next in line. So let's say if Sai Sudarshan was not to succeed in a longer duration, maybe Padikkal comes in. Look at his record. Averages 30 in the 3 innings that he's played, not greater than Sarfaraz. We're talking about India A. Rajat Patidar has played Test cricket. He's now part of the India A setup. He's played 6 Test matches for India. He averages 10, yet he is playing for India A versus South Africa. That means you have him in mind. Sarfaraz, you've eliminated from there. Clearly, there is more to it than meets the eye. As I said, definitely not a religion angle or a religious angle, but there has to be other things. What is it that we are picking up? That is something I'll dwell on. But firstly, even look at the first class record. Now, we on one side have the current BCCI establishment go gaga over domestic cricket. Say you have to play domestic cricket. Rohit Sharma, Virat Kohli, all of them are made to play domestic cricket. That's fine. That's all right, because you want to really give that importance to the domestic setup. Agreed. But how do you give importance to that domestic setup if the guy who's performing outstandingly there, 85 innings for Sarfaraz, averages 65, more than the other contenders, some of whom are part of the Indian Test team. If they are not part of the Indian Test team, they are backup for the Indian Test team. If they're not backup for the Indian Test team, they're at least in the India A setup, next in line. Sarfaraz is not even there. Look at Patidar's average, look at Padikkal's average, look at Sudarshan's average. Sarfaraz clear cut above them. Might I also add, in the last 5 years, Sarfaraz, his average is more than 100. More than 100. He's so far ahead of the competition, yet doesn't find his name in the conversation. I think that is unfortunate, and that is something that you need to really point fingers at when it comes to the BCCI as to why are you keeping him out. Let me give you some insight there of various reasons that we picked up. Firstly, there was a reason, unofficially, in BCCI there's nothing ever official. Firstly, there were unofficial reasons that, he's overweight. Guess what Sarfaraz did? He lost 17 kilos. He's fit as a fiddle now, fitter than any other cricketer that you can think of. Yet, not only has he been pushed out of the test team, he's out of the India A squad as well. I must also remind you, the last time an Indian team toured England, he was still part of that A squad. He was still part of the backup team. He got a 90 odd in a tour game. He got 100 in an intra-squad game. Was one of the best performances in green pitches in England. Yet, he was sent back from England. Did not get a chance to be part of the Indian team. He was then injured for some time and now has been pushed out from there. So this, again, reason of him being unfit now doesn't cut mustard at all. It doesn't hold water at all. That's one reason out of the way. Let me give you the other reason that was floated around in the BCCI corridors. That was right after the Australia series. That was the last series he played. There were murmurs, that few reports that came out from whatever was spoken inside the team. There were few very high profile people in the BCCI setup that pointed fingers at Sarfaraz, saying he's the guy who's leaked the news. Firstly, that is unsubstantiated. If that is the case, then I think BCCI should come out and say it. Secondly, let's assume, as I said, we're taking a look at all sides of the story. Let's say once or twice he may have spoken to a journalist about the happenings within the team. But what do you expect a player to do who's traveling there for BGT? He's been made to sit out. What we heard on that tour, that forget about getting a chance to play when others were failing, where India was losing, he wasn't being given chance in the net practice sessions as well. He was cutting a lonely figure throughout those practice sessions, throughout that long tour of Australia. What is it that the player may have done? By the way, on that yardstick, if you really have issues with people leaking news, there were a couple of news stories I remember that were leaked, where the participating players were not even part of that setup. They weren't even in the meeting. There were support staff and administrators who were part of the meeting, and those things also came out. So clearly couldn't have been a player, couldn't have been Sarfaraz. That's another thing. Okay, and let me take you little more deeper into Indian cricket. How often do we get news that is coming in from Indian cricket establishment, whether it's related to Rohit Sharma, Virat Kohli is going to retire from Test cricket, who's going to be picked, Shubman is going to be captain, Rohit is going to be let go of. All these things also come out. Was that Sarfaraz Khan that tells you what is happening? If there is anyone who's guilty of leaking news, then I think the BCCI administrators would occupy the #1 spot. Now, does that then push them out of the positions that are holding? So if you want to hold everyone to that same standard, you should have everyone, whether you're an administrator, whether you're a coach, whether you're a captain. Many news items come out in favor of certain players, in favor of certain coaches. I know that. I cover news on a daily basis, and there are many other avenues from where news is leaked and continues to be leaked. No action is taken on anyone else, but you now point a finger at Sarfaraz. Something again which has not been established. What all of that tells me, I think you're finding reasons to keep him out, whether you're not happy with him not being a team man or leaking news or whatever. But I think these questions still need to be asked. But the tweet that really came out, and even if you're a well-wisher of Sarfaraz, if you kind of put that sort of a narrative out, you're only harming his chances of making a return to the team, because as soon as you involve a player into politics, then even fans get divided, board then looks at it in a very different light. So I think you're doing a lot of harm to this youngster. He is just 28 years of age. He will consider himself very unfortunate at the moment not to be part of the setup, but I have seen players in the past gone through worse times. All I can think of for any player to do right now is put his head down, keep performing as he has done in the past as well. He's been a phenomenal player in the domestic circuit, and I think eventually he should get what he deserves. Do let us know your thoughts on this entire Sarfaraz Khan saga. Give us a like on the video if you're enjoying our content, and as always, something that I say, don't forget to subscribe to Sports Today.